And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium and an energetic healer. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and an interfaith minister. I am a creative and performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality and it's about creativity. It's about humanity and passion and service. It's about becoming and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And every week on the show, it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but it's always, without a doubt, your experience. My guest today is a living historian, a wonderfully educated man in so many things. Part of a very large Civil War and a Revolutionary War reenactment here in my hometown of Huntington Beach, California. He is also an expert in all things Santa, and is Santa at Christmas time, and maybe the best Santa of all the Santas, my favorite Santa, and a very dear friend and family member. Please welcome to the show, the wonderful Darrell Rivers is here. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Merry Christmas.
So
We're
wonderful.
starting with that.
So wonderful to have you here, Santa. Merry Christmas.
Thanks for having me.
Why Santa? I mean, we'll talk about a lot of things today, but today it's Santa time. So why Santa?
I'm only half Santa right now because we're not
Right.
not ready for a gig yet. I usually brush in the gray, so I'm not just being young Santa today.
Yes.
But no, Santa has been a part of my life my whole life because, Kelly ran our city had a Santa Claus visit program. And when she first heard of it, I'm sure she was weirded out that you bring Santa to people's homes. But it became something that she did, and she had many different Santas. Then my grandfather became one of the main Santas and visited homes and hospitals and ribbon cuttings and all sorts of things all over the city. And then when he died, I took over his route. And so we have people that I've been the Santa, or our family has been the family Santa for 30 years. But
wow.
I've been Santa for 15 years. I've done Santas everywhere. All sorts of different visits. It's never the same. It's always an adventure being Santa.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm so first of all, when I look at you and you're half Santa, it reminds me of the Rankin and Bass Santa Claus is coming.
Yeah, that's the best Santa.
About midway through where he grows the red beard, but he isn't yet in the whole white and the jolly. I'm a huge fan of Santa. I think I love the energy that Santa Claus brings. I love the history of Santa, and I love the idea of the energy of Santa. I think in my time studying spiritual things, one of the things that I have learned is that if enough living things tap into an energy of something, that thing becomes a thing. And I think all of the love and all of the energy and the light that has been poured into Santa has created an energy that is Santa. And it sort of, in a good way, like the way that people throwing away their bottles and diapers has formed an island in the Pacific Ocean of muck. I think the love that people have thrown into the ethers have formed an energy that is Santa. So when people say to me, Santa's not real, I always say, well, are we sure Santa's not real? I mean, he might not be a man, a human, but I'm not 100% convinced Santa isn't real. Is that the craziest thing you've ever heard when someone's talked to you about Santa? that
No, because I mean, it brings out the best in people. And I
yeah,
think one of my favorite things is that, you talk about the Santa energy, you'll feel a different presentation of Santa from every different Santa. And I
yes,
love seeing great Santas. My cousin Richard, he's a great fun Santa. I always use him as the anti-me Santa because he'll sing songs more than I will. But I give a different vibe to Santa. And I see all sorts of different, you know, personifications of Santa. And I talked about that in my history of Santa Claus lecture I've been giving lately. And for a lot of different countries, you have different things. Is he just the gift giver, or is he the physical embodiment of Christmastide?
hmm,
And for America, he's a little bit of everything.
yes, yeah. And why can't he be both? I mean, it's wonderful that he's a gift giver because the idea of him being a gift giver inspires us all to be gift givers. Like I always tell people, I'm a great Santa. Like I worship and honor Santa and have become a Santaite. I think that the idea of Santa maybe makes us all want to be more generous, not just at Christmas, but all throughout the year and take better care of those that we love. Sort of like the WWSD, right? What would Santa do? And
Yeah.
think about that throughout your life. So I 100% agree with that. But I also think that Santa is also embodies a lot of the ideas of Christmas, right? Maybe not the birth of Jesus part of Christmas, but certainly the secular part of Christmas and the pagan part of Christmas that became the secular part of Christmas. I love the idea of everything that is Santa and this idea. I think I think Darrell that human beings need this, right? This idea that there's this energy, or if you believe this guy, who you have never met, nor has he ever contacted you in the three dimensions, yet he knows about you and he knows what your heart's desire is, and he knows what the thing is you want more than anything. And then in the middle of the night while you sleep, he comes into your house and he just leaves that for you. There's no like he comes to your house and then he says, here it is, but it's going to be $59. You know what I mean? He just leaves it for you. Like it's like the spirit of benevolence, right? And then you wake up and that thing you've always wanted is there. I think that for human beings, so much in our lives, and not just when we're kids and not just at Christmas, that is what we wish for, right? That somebody will really see us and give us just what we want. And just because we've been good. I think it's what people are looking for all the time. So many times my clients say to me, but why isn't this happening? I've been good. Why am I not finding the love of my life? Why am I having trouble finding a job? I've been a good person. I think the Santa energy tells you like, hey, you've been good. Here's the thing you want. Even if it's a weird thing or a thing that's going to make you shoot your eye out, here's what you get it because it's what you want. I think we need that kind of hope as humans to kind of keep us going through the stuff in life that's hard.
Yeah, Santa's the personification of why everyone does all these things. He's why everyone's a little bit nicer and why, parents are able to give incredible Christmases to people. So it's sad when kids resist the Santa because
Yeah.
there still is the reason why everyone's doing those things. I'm just the personification of it.
Yeah. I
But
was,
it's a privilege to represent that to people,
oh, I
and
can
bring
imagine.
bring the joy to people's homes.
How old were you when you realized that Santa was not a living person? Let's say it like that, because I don't want to say
I
Santa.
don't know. I mean, I was always very confused because I think as a kid, I still was around my family portraying Santa. So I'm like, obviously they're not the real Santas. They're just, representing the Santa priesthood, you
Sure.
know? Um, so it was
Santa
very confusing.
priesthood. They're Santa monks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yes. Well,
So
I
it can
remember
be confusing, especially if you grow up around people with Santas.
Oh,
But I think you can hold both of those ideas. And I've had, when you're Santa, just like when you're dealing with anyone, people have difficult questions for you. You have the, can you bring back my, dead relative? Can you, do all these different things? And it's hard for people, but you have to be, um, you are, um, it's a privileged position to be in, to be able to have those conversations with people.
well, and I think you have such an ability for that. I mean, I know that, um, you know, I don't want to get too mushy with you, but you have an innate ability to make everybody feel like everything's going to be okay. I mean,
That's learned, I think, because you 15 years as a benevolent being teaches you
yes,
some things.
yes. So I would imagine you field those questions very well, and probably there are some Santas who don't know what to do when somebody says, why can't you bring my dog back to life?
No, and I don't blame them, because a lot of people do come into the Santa world already. They don't spend much time. Um, you have a lot of older guys that finally grow a beard and it's white, and they say, "Oh, you might as well be Santa." And they kind of, it gets thrust upon them. I know my grandfather struggled with it at the very beginning. He came home and would say, "Here's this very poor family. They want all these things. What do I tell them?" Um, and so those are things that you struggle with as an early Santa. But once you've been around around the world a year or two in your sleigh, um, you get to be able to answer those difficult questions.
Yeah, I still think it takes a special kind of person to be able to do it. It's
Part of
a
the Santa priesthood.
it's part of the Santa priesthood, and I think you wear that Santa priesthood all the time. I don't think it's always needed, but I also don't think you always have to have the hat on to do it. Because I remember a time just a few months ago when you talked me down from a giant panic attack in the most casual way. Because when
Yes,
people are
as a
panicking,
little bit of Santa.
when I'm panicking, people have a tendency when you're panicking to hover. They get right in
Mm.
your face, and then they tell you why you shouldn't be panicking, and and it makes it worse. But you just kind of casually were like, I read something very interesting about anxiety lately. you just, you were supporting and you were sympathizing and empathizing, but in this very casual way.
And
So
different
I,
people need different things. Sometimes you need the Santa that's going to steal the children and put them in the sack and take them away to Spain.
oh,
You
okay,
know,
sure, sure. And how do mom
and
and dad
there's,
feel about that Santa?
yeah, or Belschnickel, who's got um the cane. He's gonna hit some people.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different Santas,
Why
different
do you
different
think
energies.
why do you think different cultures have different Santas? And do you think the energy of a Santa in a culture is reflective of that culture?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
It's
where
it
does
is very reflective. I mean, you have a lot of continental Europe is still very bishop Santa.
okay,
He is coming in, he gives his gifts, and he's done. But for Britain and America, I think he is that personification of Christmas.
mm-hmm.
Um, he's even in like 18th century Britain, there's the wassailing. Christmas is a little bit more raucous, and Santa's more this Bacchus figure going around with his bowl of wassail. And
Yes,
then Charles Dickens kind of, and the Victorians make Christmas very wholesome. So Santa is always a reflection of your culture, Coca-Cola Santa,
right,
commercialization of Christmas.
right, right. It's all about the gifts with Coca-Cola Santa.
Yeah.
What
So
flavor do you
and
get?
then I like with my Santa clothes and persona, I try to combine all my favorite bits of Santa.
Okay, and what are
We
those?
got we got the robes from the Ghost of Christmas Present.
Yes,
I have my 18th century waistcoat from, there was this one Victorian drawing of Santa. I'm like, that is the thing. Um, And then a lot of them are things that I've brought over from reenacting. I have my like riding boots that are just more comfortable, and linen shirts and everything, so that I'm not sweating to death.
Right. Right.
But I try to have a little bit of that red, because if you're all green, then
The
new
American,
concepts are
yeah,
hard for people.
right. The Americans want the red.
Yeah, and I do occasionally break out the red when I do. Um, there's a couple parades that I do that I'm on the back of a car, um, and so I will get out my shorter red coat, so it's easier to ride on a convertible, as one does, Santaing.
Right. Yeah. You don't want the
But
long coat hanging out the back.
yeah, yeah. But you pick and choose, whatever you want. I was actually talking about there was a Santa school in it started I think in the 30s. It's Charles Howard,
Okay.
and he's the one that he kind of saw some terrible Santas in the 20s and 30s, and kind of started this Santa Claus school, and that really brings, I don't know, standardization to the suit and the things you say, and the way that there's one big, a standard length of beard, which was good for some things, bad for some things. There's this terrifying picture from the 20s of um, a Santa outside a store, and he has a mask on, like a face mask,
Right.
with the beard on it,
Oh,
and like it's terrifying.
right. It's
But
like
that was their solution to, like, how do we give this guy a beard? Well, give him a full face mask with a beard on it.
80s slasher Santa.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there's so many different approaches to Santa. A lot of them are good. A lot of them are good. Not all of them are good.
With the Charles, because Christmas Carol is my favorite novel and
Yeah.
of all time since I was a child, and it's remained the same, which is very strange. Normally you change, but I don't.
No,
I
it's
guess.
the best.
So the Gross Christmas Present, right, is sort of a hybrid, right, of the wassailing pre-Victorian Santa and then what Santa was to become. Did that was Santa already, did the Victorians already bring in that idea of Santa, or was that Santa reflective of what happened after Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol?
I think it's all this amalgamation that you get through through the Victorian era. Of he's Dickens is really influential in the Santa stuff, and then when there's a couple of the illustrations that came with the book that are really influential. Two of the other things that are really influential is, of course, The Night Before Christmas. It's published in America, but then it gets published all over the world. But in that, Santa is a miniature sleigh.
Oh, okay.
And he's kind of this small person that can get down your chimney, not by magic, but because he's tiny.
Oh.
And you see some of the engravings that Thomas Nast did of them. He's the same size as a cat.
Oh,
There's like all these cats around the fireplace, and he's just kind of climbing out of the fireplace looking at all these other animals.
So he's in essence a leprechaun. He's like a leprechaun.
Yeah, kind of. And Thomas Nast, he's the engraver and illustrator for Harper's Weekly, and he does a bunch of these ones for The Night Before Christmas, and he kind of gives us a standardization of like what Santa's kind of looking like. He also has red, short fur coat. Your 18th century Santas sometimes look like scary medieval Father Time kind of.
Yes.
There's all kinds of different things.
Yes.
And then there's Dickens. So there's so many different things that come together. And the thing that I like to talk about with Coca-Cola is not that they didn't invent those things, but they nailed them down. So there's even through the 30s, you see blue, green, and red Santas. You see all kinds of lengths of beards. But once we get to that 1931 Coca-Cola ad, they picked, that one, and that illustration became so famous. And you have the red kind of nailed down as the classic one, but they didn't invent it. It's this, you have 100 years of amalgamation of all these different personages of Santa.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's fun. And you can pick
Yeah,
your favorite parts.
It's awesome. I love that. Before you became my favorite Santa, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, my favorite Santa was the Ghost of Christmas Present from Muppets Christmas Carol. I
Oh
think there's
yeah, it's in the
something
singing
about
of a
him.
street corner choir.
Oh man, he's
Yeah,
one of the most beautiful things he's by far the most beautiful puppet I've ever seen. But honestly, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Everything about him and his energy and his voice to me completely encapsulates the essence of that beautiful character, who is my favorite character in all of A Christmas Carol.
yeah.
In
My big
every
Santa robes are based off of the George C. Scott Christmas Carol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
And is that so? Who are your
But I
favorite?
wear it with a shirt.
Oh, okay.
So
Oh, that's right. Because
he's
sometimes
shirtless
he
in
doesn't
that
wear
one.
a shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Because you can't be going around the nice
It's very
suburbs of
70s.
California in no shirt. But is the non-shirt? Is that an old wassailing Santa, or is
No,
that?
I mean that's a Dickens thing, I think, because that he doesn't. I don't think he's wearing a shirt in the original engraving where he's holding up the torch.
Okay. All right. Just a robe and nothing underneath.
Yeah, I don't know.
1970s swinger Santa, but really, 1890s swinger Santa. What are some of your favorite incarnations of Santa in various versions of Christmas Carol?
That's the one.
George
Those
C.
are the two best. Those are the
Yeah.
two best Christmas carols. All
Yeah.
the other ones pale in comparison. There's no other versions. Muppets are the best. Muppets are second best, and George C. Scott is the best.
Oh, see, and I think I would swap those out. That for me, Muppets are the best. I think he's just the best. But I agree, the guy in the George C. Scott version of Christmas Carol is wonderful. So in the very bizarre FX Christmas Carol from a few years ago, which we have discussed numerous times, something just occurred to me as you were speaking. So there is a scene in that where I don't know if you did you see it all the way through? Did you make it through?
Yeah,
that?
I just don't remember what the Ghost of Christmas Present looked like.
I don't either. But there's a very weird scene where Jacob Marley is having to atone from death, and he's in a field, and there's a Santa throwing a bunch of Christmas trees and things into a fire like a spirit, and tells him he has to go visit Scrooge. That character that's throwing all the stuff into the fire sort of reminds me of what you were talking about what pre-Victorian Santas looked like.
I mean, it was an odd version, but whoever wrote that knew what they were doing. It had some really interesting things in it.
Yeah, it did. It had a lot of interesting alternative spirituality, like pagan influence things in it.
Yeah.
But I always wondered when I saw that, who is that character supposed to be? And now I sort of see that that's almost like ancient pagan Santa.
Yeah.
The kind of pale, angry-looking, white-haired, phantom-y Santa.
Yeah.
It's Santa that looks like from a 70s rock band, not happy, well-nourished to Santa Claus.
Yeah.
What is the hardest thing for you? First of all, let me ask you, what is your favorite thing about actually going out and interacting with people as Santa? And then what is the hardest thing for you?
I don't know. Nobody asks me these questions.
I know.
Usually I'm doing the performance and then just going. I think obviously my favorite part of it is reading the night before Christmas. I think that when that's done well, which I try to do all the time, even if everyone's bored to death, but I think when it's done well and everyone's listening, um, and feels the energy from that, reading, there's just a silence that goes over the whole house. Not a creature was stirring. But, like, for some reason, I get such great responses from people, um, reading that and reciting that for people. They get, all cozy and Christmassy. So that's the best part, to be able to get people not in a, um, very hyped up Christmas mood, but in a cozy Christmas mood. And I think you can have some really wholesome moments from Santa, like that. The hard parts, they're the difficult questions from people. Those are hard sometimes. The drunk moms
Oh,
are quite often,
the
a
the
difficult.
Randy moms.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I've been dealing with those since I was 15.
Yes. Wow.
So it's
That's your
they are
that's your own
timeless.
that's your own Me Too story.
Yeah, there's
The
there's
Randy
lots of that. Every Santa
when you
probably
were
has
15
that.
and they thought you were 30.
But yeah, th- because I like to have that, as part of the Santa priesthood, have that, those quiet moments as Santa. I think there's a time for each of those, and I can be the fun, outgoing Santa, and I can be the quiet, contemplative Santa with people. And it's hard when we haven't got the memo
Right.
on doing one or the other.
Right. Yeah.
You go in a very somber mood, but I'm trying to get everybody to jingle bell, um, or I'm trying to, read a Christmas story, and somebody is, drunk and throwing things in the background. So, um, but that's with any performance, any conversation with people. That's always a difficult situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the same as being a minister in many regards. When you walk into a situation, I think it's the same as being a spiritual counselor. You never
You
know
can't
when
force
you
it. You
right.
can't be like, be contemplative.
Right. You don't know when a new client calls me, I don't know, do they want me to be gentle with them? Do they want tough love? Do they want to know everything? Do they want me to not tell them everything? And you just sort of have to use your intuition and feel yourself through it.
And the
Uh,
same thing happens with children too, because I think that's another one that feels gross sometimes, when parents want to parent through Santa.
oh,
And I
okay.
would rather have that conversation with someone, you know, it's back to the priesthood of Santa. Have you been good this year? And
Right.
they're going to answer,
Right. Yes.
unless it's a, particularly misleading child. Most of the time they answer, but a lot of times you'll have, parents talking over their shoulder, trying to get me to parent
Right. Yes.
through
Right.
this,
Right.
which is
Tell Billy
weird.
not to egg the neighbor's house or he's not going to get anything for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. Which that conversation can happen without me there. They
Yeah, that's
know.
kind of passive aggressive. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
odd.
it's weird sometimes.
Yeah.
Or people telling, like, I really don't like I've quite often I'll get like a, please tell, my son to pick up his room,
Yeah.
and that's the parenting isn't a part of it.
Right.
That's not part of the magic.
Right. Right. Well, that's because the relationship between the child and Santa is supposed to have nothing to do with the parents.
Yeah.
It's supposed to happen outside of the relationship with the parents, unless you ask mom to make the cookies or dad. And it's supposed to happen in addition to whatever gifts your parents are going to give you for Christmas.
And I'm not like going to get into a theological debate with a parent at the time, but Santa, naughty or nice, but there is a Santa's unconditional love.
Yes.
Santa is going to bring something,
Yes. Yes. Not
um,
coal.
unless they want coal.
Not a stocking full of coal. They're
But
probably.
I do occasionally carry real coal as a threat.
Do you want coal for Christmas? Have you ever wanted? Have you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've delivered some coal.
Uh, Yeah, and it's strange though, right? How even it kind of reminds me of how we set up religion with people, right? To sort of scare them and corral them into behaviors by this whole if you don't, then here's the consequence. Even with Santa, right? If you're not good, you're getting nothing. And
Yeah.
here comes the coal. So you better be good. It comes with kind of a strange I think it's how we as humans are stop from going into utter anarchy, right? We need rules and fences and borders and territories, otherwise we run amok. So even with Santa, it's you better get your poop in a group or Santa's not bringing you anything. And it starts very young. We become conditioned that you have to be on the nice list or you don't get anything. I think unfortunately as adults we forget that. I think adults should be told you have to be on the nice list or you don't get anything.
Yeah.
It amazes me how many people, I understand that the bad things happen. I understand a lot of folks are lonely. My work is helping lonely people, but it amazes me sometimes how people are so resistant to the holidays. Well, I don't like religion. Well, guess what? Most of Christmas has nothing to do with Christianity, so you can still like it. I don't like the holidays. I think it's a shame. I was raised by a woman who, one of the ways she dealt with her own loneliness and chronic depression was being in the Santa priesthood. So when I was like, 30, 35 years old still, I would go to sleep. And while I was asleep, she would add twice as many presents. So when I woke up in the morning, it seemed as if Santa had been there.
Santa had been there.
And even when you're an adult, that's amazing.
I know, that is the magic.
The idea that Christmas morning, it looks different under the tree than when you went to bed Christmas night. And so I try to always carry that over and whenever I can into my own life with people that I love. But I'm surprised sometimes that there are many people who, give me a hard time for how much I love Christmas. Like something is a little wrong with me. And I think that's a shame that we've become that society that feels like it has to shame people for loving Santa and loving Christmas because we only get it once a year, right? Shouldn't we enjoy it? I mean, all holidays, I feel the same way about Thanksgiving. Oh, well, the story of, what, can you just calm down and let me eat some turkey? And I know that, and I'm not trying to be not aware or not politically correct in any way, but it's really important that we get to enjoy the few days a year that we get to enjoy for holidays and allow ourselves to sort of succumb to the magic a little bit. That's what I love about Santa and about Christmas is everyone succumbs to the magic. We know so much about how the world works now. There's not enough magic anymore.
Yeah, I think I'm lucky and I might be just shielded from it because I am Santa, but I don't really have to deal that much with negative Christmas people.
That's wonderful,
because
right? Negative Christmas people
when
don't call
Santa's
you.
right in front of you,
Right.
you just can't help but be a little more jolly.
Yes.
And so, there's some people that don't want to take a picture or they might not participate as much, but it's hard to be anti-Christmas when gigantic Santa has barged through your door.
Yes. And do you think the fact that you are a tall being just makes you a better Santa? That just makes you more. Do you think there is an idea now that Santa is
I think I'm lucky that way because it is so overwhelming for a lot of people. It's overwhelming when I walk in the room when I don't have my Santa stuff on. So when I do have that giant robe and my big Civil War boots on, I'm twice the size. I'm larger than life. It's that concept. It's larger than life, but right in your face.
That's wonderful.
So that is that I am lucky to have that as Santa.
And do you mostly work solo? Do you have others that you bring with you into your Santa entourage?
There have been elves. There have been Mrs. Clauses here and there. And then of course Kelly, my mother, is Santa's manager.
Right.
Santa's handler.
She's got a
And
cigar
Santa
and she's all business now.
absolutely needs a handler.
Yeah.
I can't for anybody that is ever going to consider being Santa,
Yeah.
that is so huge because Santa can't complain that the chair's in the wrong place. Santa can't scout ahead before he bursts in the door
Yes.
or
Yes.
ask questions in the background. And it's hard. I have big leather gloves on. I'm helpless when I'm
Yeah.
Santa. So you need a handler. Santa needs somebody. And I find that it's better and it doesn't detract when that person isn't a character.
Right. Yes. No, I think it's good actually when that person isn't a character.
Yeah.
Somebody has to be the bottom line person.
Yeah.
Do you have to, is part of what the manager does let Santa know when it's time to get on the sleigh and go to the next house?
Yeah, most of the time.
Do they want to keep you
I'm
there forever?
Yeah, I think it depends. I'm usually pretty good at knowing ahead of time what our time is, but especially at big events, I have no idea. And um, visiting military things or hospitals or
Sure.
um, you have no clue what's going on.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, it's sometimes I lose track of time, but for home visits, it's usually I usually can gauge it pretty well, unless it's a massive party.
Yeah. 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 It's that's awesome. Because I would think that would be the hard thing is that everybody would want Santa stay. And there's like 20 kids pulling on the robe and everybody wants you to stay.
Yeah, I mean the worst is when they want you to stay, but nobody is doing anything with Santa.
Oh, they
So
just want
Santa's just
Santa to
like
sit in
stuck
the
in the
corner.
corner. They don't
Yeah.
want him to leave, but
Yes. Yes.
so I never run out of things to do. I pull out my watch, start winding my watch, start humming Good King Wenceslas,
Oh, nice.
just I'm fine. I'm always in character.
'Twas the night before Christmas. Let's talk a minute about that because, as I was saying earlier, that I have believed most of my whole life that Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol is the perfect novel, and that what I love the most about it is the complexity in the simplicity. You can take it at any level that you want to take it. I think that "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" is probably a perfect poem.
Yeah.
You never get sick of saying it. You never get sick of hearing it. My heart beats a little faster and I tear up a little bit every time I hear somebody read it. It's just so beautifully done and it's just gorgeous and it never gets old. It's interesting how some things, you think are real funny or real great when you hear them and then you forget about them. There are things that just embed themselves in your being. And that poem is certainly, it can change people, right? Like you said, you pull out the book and you start reading that poem and the energy in the room changes whether it's adults or children.
Yeah. It's from 1823. I think 1823.
Wow.
And it just immediately became so popular. And there's this whole controversy about its authorship because we're pretty sure it was from this guy Clement Moore, and he was a professor, but he published it anonymously,
Mm.
and then I think 10 something years later said, "Oh no, that was me," after it had become world famous.
Sure. Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's you kind of have to wonder.
Right.
But then the only other person that had said or that they tried to attribute it to was dead by the time they attributed to it, and it was his family said, "Oh no, he used to tell us that story all the time," and it was kind of
Interesting.
similar to his writing style.
Yeah.
Um, but it's New York. You wouldn't expect it to be New York, but it was this Dutch American, kind of like the same people that are Washington Irving, Rip
Right.
Van Winkle. It's those classic early Dutch American writing, and they combine Sinterklaas with Father Christmas.
Mm.
It is quintessentially American because it's English at its core, just sprinkled with the Netherlands,
Mm.
sprinkled with a little bit of Holland, and
Okay.
they call him Saint Nicholas. He's this tiny little elf guy. And there's a lot of weird little Dutch references that people forget now. Is the original is Dunder and Bliksem, which is thunder and lightning in Dutch, but
Oh,
now we say Donner and Blitzen.
right.
So,
That's interesting. So the
but
Dutch,
yeah, it's so
they have the
classic.
tiny Santa.
No, they have Big Bishop Santa. So that was
Oh,
kind of
okay.
his invention, I think.
Okay.
But you see a lot of Nordic countries have tiny Santa.
Interesting.
Um, but no, the Dutch have big Saint Nicholas
Right.
in his bishop's mitre, and he has Schwarzepiet who follows him around.
Right.
You're talking about politically incorrect Santa. He's got his blackface
Yes, he does. Yes,
friend.
his helper. Yes,
Yes,
his
his
associate,
helper,
his traveling companion.
his
Yeah.
partially indentured helper.
Well, in the spiritual community, in the woo-woo community where I live and breathe, a lot of people believe that Santa Claus is an elemental spirit, like a fairy or a leprechaun or a kachina. And the reason that every culture has one and they're a little bit different is that that's how different countries in their legends and folklore how they express the elemental spirits. And so they're, very much in that community that they believe that Santa is definitely real and is just another kind of elemental, which is kind of an interesting way to look at it, that there actually is a Santa being. It's not a living biological being, but he is a spirit for real,
And how it's so different in every culture.
Yeah, and he's so
Yeah.
different in every culture. The same way that if you watch a show on cryptozoology, you will see that every single culture, even before they knew other parts of the world existed, they all have a Bigfoot, they all have a Loch Ness monster type creature, they all have a chupacabra type creature, they all have a Jersey Devil type creature, they all have something that is Kachina leprechaun-esque, they have something that is fairy-esque. These same things exist in all of these cultures, even before those cultures knew there were other parts of the world that existed. I think that's one of my most fascinating things to talk about in historical spirituality is that, we didn't even know North America existed, yet North America had all the same stuff and South America had all the same stuff. And it's kind of tailored and tweaked depending on the area that you're in, in Tibet, Bigfoot is covered in white and he's a snowman. In the Pacific Northwest, he's a regular, like a bear. In Louisiana, he lives in a swamp. Like everywhere has it, but it's kind of catered to the region. And I think that's kind of fascinating. And I think the same thing with Santa we're seeing, right? Too, depending on the history of the culture, depends on how they've built their Santa.
Yeah, I'm just a creature in the forest.
Yeah.
Somebody has sighted me.
That's it. You're just a creature and someone has spied. That's fantastic.
But yeah, there's so much that comes together to make Santa a thing. And I think that's great. And everybody has their own picture of Santa in their mind.
Yes, yes.
Now I'm uniquely qualified to be Santa now, especially this year.
Oh, now tell me why.
I have a new Santa qualification, but this is more old school traditional Santa.
Okay.
Because in March, I was in Bari, in Italy, and
yes.
I have seen the bones of St. Nicholas.
Oh my goodness. Yes,
Not many Santas have seen the bones of St. Nicholas, so.
That is a true.
Yeah, that's my new claim to fame.
Oh, yes. That is beautiful. And because you were there with your mom, and I was given the gift of a St. Nicholas statue.
Yeah.
I have a curio cabinet that is all about ascended masters. It's all about figures in life and in spirituality that have helped to influence and cultivate my own spiritual beliefs and my own spiritual work. And there he is, right next to St. Patrick, by the way, is St. Nicholas. And on the other side of St. Patrick is St. Francis. So, I love him, and I'm learning more and more about him now because of your trip to Bari. How fabulous is that?
Yeah.
That's so let's talk a little bit about Krampus, because man, we're all obsessed with Krampus now.
It was just
Everyone,
Krampus Day in Austria.
everyone is obsessed with Krampus, and I'll tell you a funny story. So, um, across the street from Darrell's mom is a lady who is, owns some metaphysical stuff. And one night last year, I was getting out of my car to go have dinner there, and I saw what I thought was Darrell in the background. I'm like, oh, Darrell's dressed up as Santa, and for some reason, he's standing behind my car. So I start to get out of the car because I can only see in the rearview mirror, right? Just side mirror. Just as I get out of the car, I hear, and I'm like, what is he doing? And then I realize it is a giant Krampus statue as tall as Darrell. It has giant arms. It has red eyes, and it screams.
Yeah,
and I thought,
and it
oh
moves.
my God, that's nothing I want to go see. It's kind of anti-Santa, right?
Yeah, I mean the real Krampus follows Santa, so Santa, gives the gifts, and then Krampus doles out the badness, either
Oh,
hitting bad children or stealing them away.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So, or just generally scaring people.
So he comes down the chimney after Santa. And if
I
you've
think
been bad,
all the drawings I see, they just come in the door. I think the chimney is a distinctly
right.
Chimney is Night Before Christmas, so it's
okay.
An American thing. Now everybody uses it, but yeah, original Krampus is Austria.
Okay.
Like in the Austrian Alps.
Okay. All right. So he comes in the door, and the good children all get goodies, and the bad children get beat.
Saint Nicholas, he's with Santa. So there's Santa and there's Krampus.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's bad cop.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I guess some cultures want good cop, bad cop.
Well, that's probably a way to really get kids to behave.
Yeah.
The idea that something as terrifying as what I saw on that lawn would come with Santa and yank you out of your bed if you were bad.
Yeah, so I think the Krampusnacht is the night of the Feast of St. Nicholas. So it's like the night of December 5th.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but it's earlier. It's already over. So
right.
We're good.
Do you think that because we're just obsessed with it now, right? We're obsessed with all things horror and terrifying, and that's why I guess we're so obsessed with Krampus now.
It's the Halloween people, they just want more time.
They want more Halloween.
Yeah.
Do you think that's scary for kids, right? To all year round wonder, have I been good enough? Is Krampus going to come and take me? That doesn't seem like it makes
I'm not a fan of the Krampus.
Very fun to me. I think as a child that had anxiety, I would have just been second guessing everything and making lists and doing calculations and wondering what my percentage of bad was and if I was going to come and get snatched in the night.
Yeah. Not great.
It's not the spirit of Christmas.
Not great. Not my version of Santa.
It's not. What is the what are some gigs that you've done as Santa that didn't have to do with kids?
I've delivered a car. I've delivered.
Oh, as a gift?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
One time it was Santa driving it up. One time it was Santa giving the keys.
Oh.
And then it had the big ribbon on it.
Oh. Yeah.
So and then you'd be surprised. There's quite a few people that will just book Santa at a party with no children just for photos or to give all the gifts away.
Okay.
And then one of my favorite events every year is with a few hundred special needs adults.
Oh.
And they are the true believers.
Sure.
No one believes better than they. And we have a good time. It's a fun event every year, but that one doesn't have many kids. A lot of kids.
Yeah, That's beautiful. I think it's great. I mean, what do you believe? I mean, honestly, is it okay to ask you that? I mean, I know you. What do you believe Santa is? Being part of the Santa priesthood.
I think it's what we talked about earlier is that, whether or not it's an actual physical person, he's the personification of why we're doing all these things.
Yes.
Your mother, doubled the presents. What made her do that?
Yeah.
And we have a personification for why she did that.
Yeah.
Santa is real
Yeah.
because all of these things do happen. Somehow presents do get under the tree. It wasn't Santa that actually did it, but the spirit of Santa was why that happened. So it's really nice. I think um, whatever people believe, um, just the fact that we're getting in the Christmas spirit and giving each other gifts and being nicer to people, that is real.
I agree. I
And I
agree.
get to represent that
That's
as part of the
beautiful.
Santa priesthood.
And the fact that my mom was a Santa and part of the Santa priesthood.
Yeah.
She was Santa all year round. It wasn't just at Christmas. I remember once when I was in high school, I was in love with this little sports car. I wanted it so bad and I didn't have enough money for it. And my mom was trying to make me get a car I had money for. And one day, and the guy wouldn't come down in price, and I was all angst ridden. And one day they came to me from the principal's office and they said, your mom's on the phone. It's an emergency. You have to come to the principal's office. So I went to the principal's office, and I was a good student. So I was like, why am I completely freaked out? And I picked up the phone and she said, if anybody asks, there's been a family emergency. And I said, okay. And she said, how much do you love me? And I said, more than anything. She's like, I bought you the car. And the fact that she thought of calling the school, it was such a thing, right? It was such
Had to be the big Santa reveal.
It was a big Santa reveal. And she loved that because she's like, you can't tell them why I'm calling her. We'll both be in trouble. I just want you to know I got you the car. I loved that. And I try to bring that to people's lives as much as I can and give special gifts and not, oh, here's a gift certificate to Kohl's. I mean, there's nothing
you need
wrong
a little
with
chaotic Santa.
But how about something that you actually, a gift that's given in love and thought. You are wonderful, my friend, and I love and adore you. And thank you for coming and doing this show with me. I can't wait to have you back. And where can people find you and your Santa online?
I'm at HB Santa Claus on Instagram. It's hbsantaclaus.com, and the links are on my my Instagram. I have a whole annotated version of The Night Before Christmas that you can buy if you want a copy of The Night Before Christmas, complete with historic notes about Dunder and Blixen and how to make sugar plums.
The best ever. Oh my God, I love that. Thank you, my friend, for being here. Thank you to Darrell Rivers, the world's best Santa, and to KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network for having me here. If you want to find out more about me or more about Darrell, you can visit me at sheenametalspiritual.com, on social media at Sheena Metal, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter, or let's get to know each other. Send me a text message, 818-437-0886. You can text me anytime. I only turn it off when I sleep. And sometimes I get overloaded. It takes me a little while to get back, but I always get back. And thank you for being here. Thank you to KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network and my wonderful program director, Bill Forte, and to my engineer producer, Emery, who is truly the wind beneath my wings. Until I see you all next week, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration and the vibration of those around you and the vibration of the everything. And most importantly, know that you are love and you are loved. And you are loved by me. And I can't wait to see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time on the Sheena Metal Experience. You take care of you.